Today we're heading out on what was probably the biggest and most expensive excursion that we booked during our Greek Isles cruise aboard Odyssey of the Seas, the ultimate Santorini experience. Since Santorini is a tender port, getting off the ship usually involves reserving a tender ticket and waiting for your group to be called. But one nice perk of booking an excursion is that they completely handle that process for you. All we had to do was meet at the designated location on board. When it was time, they escorted us right down off the boat. And honestly, pulling away from Odyssey of the Seas and seeing Santorini open up around us was already an incredible start to the day. One thing we really appreciated about booking an organized excursion in Santorini was how easy it made the entire day. You just get off the tender boats, transportation is completely taken care of, so you don't have to stress about figuring it all out. It can get extremely crowded when multiple cruise ships are in port, so honestly, having everything coordinated for us made the experience so much more enjoyable. As we started making our way up from the port, the views just kept getting better and better. Seeing the cliffs, the winding roads, the white buildings built into the hillside really makes you realize how dramatic and unique Santorini actually is in person. Instead of worrying about logistics, we could just sit back, enjoy the scenery, and focus on experiencing the island. After the drive up from port, we arrived in Oia, probably the most iconic and photographed part of Santorini. This is the area famous for the blue dome churches, white buildings built right into the cliffs, and those unbelievable postcard views overlooking the Aegean Sea. And honestly, it was beautiful in person. But the one thing that immediately stood out to us was just how crowded it was. And this was only with 2 cruise ships in port that day. Everywhere we looked, there were long lines of people waiting to take the exact same photos from the most famous viewpoints. Now, we only had about an hour here as part of this excursion, and personally, I just couldn't imagine spending that entire hour standing in one line waiting for a single picture, so we did just the opposite. We walked away from those big crowds, we explored the side streets, we wandered through the quieter walkways, checked out the shops, stopped to take in the scenery, and honestly, just experienced Oia instead of rushing from photo line to photo line. Not only did we find places that were far less crowded, but we actually found views and photo spots that we liked even more than the famous Instagram locations everyone was lining up for. So honestly, if I had to give one piece of advice in visiting Oia, especially if your time is limited, it would be this. Don't spend your entire visit standing in line for pictures. Walk around, explore, grab a drink, buy something meaningful from a local shop. Take photos in quieter places. Some of our favorite memories from Santorini came from simply wandering through the streets and discovering the island for ourselves. One other thing we learned pretty quickly in Oia is that the streets and walkways can get a little confusing once you start wandering around. There's lots of little side paths, shops, restaurants, little alleyways everywhere, and it can get pretty confusing. You can lose your sense of direction easily. So if you're visiting as part of an excursion and you have a set amount of time, definitely pay attention to where you're going, because we actually had a few people on our bus who got lost trying to make their way back, and it ended up delaying the entire group while everybody waited for them to return. So after leaving Oia, we continued across the island toward Fira, which is the main town area of Santorini and another one of the island's most famous destinations. One thing we really liked about this excursion was the order of the day. Starting in Oia and then moving to Fira meant that we could get most of the walking, sightseeing, and exploring done earlier in the day before relaxing later at the Royal Beach Club. So when we arrived in Fira, one of the first things we saw was the beautiful Greek Orthodox cathedral right near the center of town. The white architecture, the bell towers, and the views overlooking the caldera were absolutely stunning. But again, just like in Oia, we realized pretty quickly that with limited time, we didn't want to spend the whole visit rushing around trying to see absolutely everything. So instead, we decided to slow down a little bit and find a small cafe with an incredible view overlooking the water. And honestly, that ended up being one of the favorite parts of the day. Santorini is actually famous for its white wine, especially varieties like Assortico that are grown in the island's volcanic soil. And if you've got the chance while you're there, I'd absolutely recommend trying it. The wine was crisp, refreshing, and honestly perfect for sitting there in the middle of the afternoon, overlooking the cliffs and the sea. We also grabbed a couple sandwiches for lunch, and they were incredibly good. Simple, fresh Mediterranean ingredients. As the excursion continued, we eventually made our way down to Royal Caribbean's Royal Beach Club, and honestly, it ended up being the perfect way to end the day in Santorini. After spending the morning walking through Oia and Fira, seeing the sights, climbing the hills, navigating crowds, and exploring the island, arriving here felt like finally being able to completely relax. The atmosphere was incredible. You had the black volcanic beach, crystal clear water, live music, amazing food, complimentary wine and beer, and just a really calm, laid-back Mediterranean vibe that made it hard to want to leave. One thing we really appreciated was that Royal Caribbean intentionally designed this beach club experience to feel smaller and more relaxed compared to some other larger beach destinations. Even with multiple excursion groups throughout the day, it never felt chaotic or overcrowded. We spent the rest of the afternoon sitting by the water with family, enjoying drinks, listening to music, walking along the beach, and just taking everything in. Honestly, after a busy morning of sightseeing, this ended up being the perfect balance for the end of the day. If we had to do Santorini again, I genuinely think this combination excursion, Oia Fira, and then ending at the Royal Beach Club is probably the best way to experience the island from a cruise ship. It was beautiful, relaxing, well organized, and absolutely one of our favorite excursions we've ever done cruising. If you want a full, detailed review of Royal Beach Club Santorini, make sure to check out our full video linked on the channel. Honestly, it ended up being one of our favorite cruise excursions ever.